Hi, Andy XL back with another NFXL podcast and the final of my looks at the 8 NFL divisions post the draft to analyse how they might pan out next season. And we finish with the NFC West, which contains the reigning champion Seattle Seahawks. They did almost nothing in free agency, adopting a if it ain't broke, don't fix it methodology. They did lose Kenneth Walker via free agency, though. As a result, they went into this draft looking for his replacement and also potentially looking at guard, slot receiver, edge, and cornerback and safety. So with Jadarian Price, Bud Clark, and Julian Neal being their first three picks, running back, cornerback, and safety were ticked off that list. Bo Stevens at guard in round 5 may have gone some way to meeting that need too. The later rounds saw them speculate on depth additions with developmental upside at wide receiver, quarterback, and defensive tackle, all of which should mean the Seahawks are going to be going pretty close to being as good as they were when they won it all last season. So, the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Rams added both Chiefs cornerbacks from last season via free agency, but were pretty dormant apart from that. Those were great additions for a pass defense that ranked 19th last season and were pretty much the finished article apart from that. The Rams in general, that is. Still, I thought they would look at slot receiver, quarterback, and the O line primarily in this draft. I was still shocked when they pulled the trigger to take Ty Simpson at pick 13 in this draft, though. Slot receiver or O line made more sense to me with that pick. I've not been a Simpson fan all the way through the pre-draft process, and he's going to sit behind Stafford for at least a season or two. And I think this is an opportunity the Rams need to take to win now rather than already look to the future. So I wasn't in favour of that pick. As if they did not have enough tight ends already, they then added another in Max Clare in round 2, before finally taking an O lineman at the end of round 3 in Keegan Trost. A wide receiver and a defensive tackle in rounds 6 and 7 completed a draft that looked like it was looking to the future at the expense of adding the final piece or two to give them the best shot of success in the coming season. So we'll see how this pans out long term. But I don't think it's a draft that's done much for the Rams next season. Excuse me. The San Francisco 49ers. While Jean Jennings has gone, Mike Evans and Christian Kirk come in, plus some quality defensive additions on defense. And that pretty much sums up the 49ers free agency. Draft wise, that left them looking for help in their secondary, at edge, on the O line, and for support for Christian McCaffrey at running back. DeZorn Stribling was a surprise first pick of the draft in round 2 by the 49ers. Romulo Height on the edge and running back Kalen Black were the next choices. Black could be just what they need behind McCaffrey, and a team that had just 20 sacks last season could certainly benefit from Height's addition on the edge. The trenches were up next with Grayson Horton on the defensive side and Carver Willis on the O-line being added before a cornerback in Ephesians Prasock rounded out round 5. But after this draft, the O-line and secondary may well still be short of the levels required to overhaul one or both of the Seahawks and Rams. The Arizona Cardinals finally. Now, the Cardinals have improved their O-line and at defensive tackle via free agency, and also maybe better at wide receiver prior to the draft. But they were still looking to improve at edge, offensive tackle, safety, and at quarterback in this draft. Taking Jeremiah Love with the third overall pick makes a crowded running back room even more so. But for me, they got the best player in the draft here, and with them needing to play the long game in such a tough division, this looks a great move to me. On day 2, they took Chase Bizontis at guard and another prospect for the future, possibly, in quarterback Carson Beck, who I personally had as the QB2 in this class. They continued drafting prospects with upside on day 3 in the form of defensive tackle Caleb Proctor, wide receiver Reggie Virgil, inside linebacker Carson Sherrar, and offensive tackle Jaden Williams. This is a draft looking beyond 2026 by the Cardinals, and for me was a good strategy for them to employ. But edge, O-line and safety were not addressed, so next season is likely to see them improve, but still finish bottom of what could be one of the toughest divisions in the league, certainly to win. So in summary, The Seahawks are going to be really good again, but they'll need to be because now they're going to have a tougher schedule and a target on their back. The Rams were close to winning it all last season, and those free agent cornerback additions look to make them even better next season. The 49ers may have to improve markedly to beat both of those teams, and I'm not convinced they will after this draft. And finally, whilst the Cardinals have not only sorry, whilst the Cardinals have not only two of the best teams in the NFL to overcome, but maybe three of them, and with uncertainty over the quarterback position, Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, Carson Beck, Brissett's contract will probably get sorted out and he'll start the season as a starter, but for how long? And they've got holes in their roster elsewhere. It looks a hill too steep to climb for them next season, but they've taken the long-term approach, which is probably right because at some point, if you imagine the Rams don't have Matthew Stafford, the Seahawks come off their current peak, and the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey can't go on forever, for instance. Um, their window of opportunity may open up as others closes. So that's it for the NFC South. Um, Next up, I'm going to have a look at the contenders. I'm going to categorize people. I'm not going to do a power rankings because I just think that's quite random in who you put in front of certain teams at certain points. So I'll put them in groups of the contenders, then when working their way down, dark horses, improvers, etc. So look for that piece coming up soon. See you later.